Hello, my name is Nehemiah Kim, and this is my CyberChat project presentation. And today I'll be talking about the Capital One Cloud misconfiguration breach, which happened around March through July of 2019. And so this incident is one of the most significant examples of how a simple cloud misconfiguration can lead to a lot of data exposure. And so I'll be going over the timeline of how the breach happened, the breakdown of how the attacker gained access, the response and investigation process throughout it and after it, and then the key lessons that we can learn moving forward this breach. And so first off, what happened? And so the breach began in March of 2019 when the attacker first gained unauthorized access to Capital One's cloud. However, it wasn't until July 2019 that Capital One actually discovered the breach, which meant that it went undetected for a few months. And then soon after, um, the attacker was arrested, and then Capital One began their incident response and public disclosures. And during the attacker exploits, there were a lot of posts about the breach and how to go through the breach itself. And the attacker also posted some personal information as well. And so this timeline highlights how stealthy and damaging these attacks can be, especially when misconfigurations go unnoticed. And so this is a quote from Amazon because the main configuration breach was through the AWS, and then so Amazon Web Services, and then that was where Capital One hosted its infrastructure. And then Amazon, in response to this breach, made a clarification saying the intrusion was caused by misconfiguration of a web application firewall, not the actual underlying infrastructure. And this quote highlights that it wasn't actually the fault of AWS, but with how Capital One configured their security settings, a common risk in today's shared responsibility model. And so, how did this attack happen? And So the problem was the misconfigured web application firewall, or WAF, and so the attacker found and exploited a misconfigured firewall, and then that was designed to block malicious traffic. And then, due to the rule misconfiguration, the attacker was allowed external commands to reach the internal servers of the AWS resources. And then this is what gave the attacker the first kind of foothold into the system. And the attacker mainly used a server-side request forgery attack, or SSRF attack. And this is when the attacker uses um, this this attack specifically tricks the WAF into sending requests to the AWS metadata service, which stores temporary credentials for the internal cloud resources. And then by accessing a special URL which the attacker used, um, they were able to retrieve IAM role credentials that gave them access to the system. I should have mentioned this earlier. The name of the attacker was Thompson, so I'll be referring to her as Thompson. So this is one of the textbook examples of a SSRF attack being used for something called privilege escalation in a cloud environment. So with privilege escalation comes data extraction, and with these stolen credentials, the attacker listed all S3 buckets and began copying sensitive data using AWS CLI tools. And in total, they stole about 30 gigabytes of customer data from over 700 S3 buckets. And then after they stole this information, they stayed hidden using attacker tools like Tor and VPN to hide their identity online. And this stage of the process shows how powerful cloud credentials can be if they are leaked, and how companies should really focus on hiding cloud credentials because it gives attackers near admin access to their servers. And so now I'll be going through the detection and investigation. And so despite the attacker's sophistication of attacks, it was eventually discovered a few months later. First off, uh, AWS CloudTrail um, uh, keeps logs, which helped the investigators trace the attack and identify the suspect because AWS CloudTrail keeps track of the logs of what goes through the servers. And so the attacker also made the mistake of bragging on GitHub and social media, which helped investigators link the breach to a specific individual. That's how they found out it was through Thompson under the GitHub name Erratic, I believe. And then in response, Capital One quickly fixed the vulnerability a few months later and offered free credit monitoring to affected customers. And they were also in a lot of lawsuits and had to pay about 80 million fine as a response of this ignorance. So as a result, what are some key lessons to be learned? Number one is responsibility. Misconfiguration is one of the top causes of cloud breaches. And so in essence, we should hold a shared responsibility model where cloud providers protect the infrastructure, but only cloud providers should be responsible for their settings and their applications and their data. And when they do use automated tools such as AWS, they should keep regular monitoring and audits. And yeah, so in conclusion, um, Capital One breaches a cautionary tale, and as cloud adoption grows, knowing that one wrong setting can do such damage, we should stay vigilant and keep cloud security at utmost priority. So thank you.